Journey's investigations have uncovered how the state-owned Metro Mass Transit Limited lost over 1 million Ghana cedis as a result of undervaluation of some 200 buses sold by the company. The buses were declared unserviceable and as a policy were supposed to have been sold off as scrap. Journeys, however, found out the valuation process was compromised and this has cost the company more than 1 million cedis in revenue. Manasseh Zuya has spent months tracking the valuation and sale of the vehicles in our reports.
In the office of the managing director of Metro Mass, an auctioneer who claims to have facilitated the sale of 18 unserviceable buses complains he has been shortchanged. He claims the buses were sold to people recommended by the board chairman, Ahmed Arthur, who also promised him 100 cedis on each of the buses. This is in addition to his fee for the auctioning. Mr. Arthur has denied any involvement in the sale of the buses, but that's not the only problem with the deal. In December 2016 and February 2017, the valuation department of the State Transport Company, STC, valued the 202 vehicles for Metro Mass. The total value was 1,397,000 cedis. In October 2017, the chairman of the committee mandated to oversee the disposal of the buses wrote to the managing director of Metro Mass, raising questions of inaccuracies in the valuation report. In that memo, he pointed out,
for instance, the valuation report would indicate that there is no engine in a particular bus. However, physical examination of the said bus reveals otherwise.
What this means is that with the engines and other parts, the value of the buses ought to have been higher than the 1,397,000 cedis. The committee made 3 suggestions to the managing director, Bennett Abwaji.
1. That the technical department is tasked to remove all parts which are not meant for scrapping from the boarded buses to tally with what the valuation report contains. 2. That all parts removed should be duly documented and received into stores. And 3, that as a committee, in view of the huge financial implications involved, we do not recommend the option of revaluation.
6 days after receiving this memo, Bennett Abwaji wrote to STC to revalue the buses. When Joy News asked him why he called for the revaluation, he said the buses had no engines, but the valuation report said they had engines. When he produced the memo from his scraps committee, which falsified his claim, he said the revaluation was the best decision in the circumstances. Sources in Metro Mass say they expected the value of the buses to go up since it was confirmed that they had engines and other parts contrary to the earlier valuation report. When the revaluation was done, however, the value further fell by 85%, dropping from 1,397,000 to 373,800 cedis for all the 202 vehicles. I went to STC to find out whether it was true that the first valuation report was inaccurate, as the Metro Mass Scraps Committee complained. The head of valuation, E.E. Akon, defended the report, saying it was a reflection of what they had inspected. Apart from the Metro Mass Scraps Committee's findings, we also discovered that the condition of the 202 buses, as captured in the report, was the same, word for word. I pointed out to him that it was impossible to value 200 different buses and write a report that indicated that each one of them had exactly the same problem. At this point, he called one of his engineers, John Akajro, who admitted the valuation report was indeed compromised.
They promised that they were going to scrap the buses, so I have to write it as they told me. So that's what I did.
So if I understand your explanation, your valuation report was based on what the officials told you and not what you found on the buses?
Yes.
Is that how you work? If I bring a car for you to value for me, do you value the car based on what you see? You have the technical eyes to see what is on it and quote the price, or you value it based on what I tell you?
No, it is not so. We value it according to the present condition of the vehicle.
When I asked why the value of the buses reduced drastically after the second valuation, the STC evaluation team said time had elapsed.
Vehicles depreciate. So whatever you do, there's some time, or even from the day one, it starts depreciating. That is why you see the values falling drastically.
They also said the engines and other parts were removed from the buses before the second valuation. Sources in Metromass, however, say that statement is false. According to insiders, the buses were sold cheaply to persons linked to some management and board members, who then resold them at higher prices, and the margins were shared. The MD, Bennett Abuaji, and the board chairman, Ahmed Arthur, have denied any wrongdoing in the deal. But Joy News has evidence that the valuation of the buses was compromised, and the company appears to have lost at least 1 million cedis in this transaction.
We can now go on to the phone lines and speak with the ranking member of the Transport Committee of Parliament, Frank Agboja. Good evening to you, sir, and many thanks for your time. The issues at Metromass have been with us for years. In 2014, for instance, Joy News uncovered how buses meant for scrap were later found in the workshop. How can these issues be addressed once and for all?
Thank you very much, Israel. My name is Kwame Agboja, actually. I think this is has become a very endemic, but this particular one has become more than what we can all see. I mean, when listening to your interview, you could see that the gentleman who was supposed to even do the evaluation was basically told that, look, these are a couple of buses we want to scrap, so tell us how much these scrap buses are. So he wasn't actually asked to value the buses based on the condition. And in fact, when you trace this story from the beginning, it appears everybody along the chain has compromised the system to an extent for personal reasons. I am believing that this situation has gotten to a point where we need an independent inquiry into this, because even to the extent that even STC, which are supposed to know better, look at the statement the gentleman made that the buses that were brought to them were without engine, while the report shows that the buses were with engine. So you can't even find anybody probably at the management level or board level of Metromass, or how do you call it, the guys who value the bus at STC, to tell you the truth as to exactly what is going on. We are told that the special prosecutor asked that nothing be done, but I think that we can still have an independent investigation into this that can unearth this. Maybe when we are able to unearth this, maybe we will find things along the way which will give us the necessary steps to take to avert this happening in the future. That is the only way. If we just treat this as another thing that we deal with and leave it without getting to the root cause or using the same agencies as investigative agencies, we may never get to the bottom of this issue.
So you feel that if we actually investigate this thing thoroughly, we can be able to tell how this happens, and that's the way to stop it?
Yes, because it looks like this has been, like you said, this is not the first time it's happening. It looks like some people know where to be dishonest and do the wrong thing. But for once, let's have a thorough, independent inquiry into this. It would unearth all the dark areas, and then we can take steps to plug all these holes in the future, so that we can all look forward. When buses are at age that they needed to be scrapped, what steps needed to be taken. I know that there are general conditions under which buses can be scrapped. As we speak, I know for a fact, because we've discussed it with them, the fleet of Metromass have all aged. We are expecting them to get a new fleet of buses. Whilst we are waiting for that, then the existing fleet needed to be managed in such a way that the crucial service they provide, which is providing an affordable public transport system, can still go on. So it is quite shocking that people in charge of this crucial service have turned themselves into a group of people who basically don't care, and then have to do this to the detriment of the poorer folk, because it's the poorer folk that access this service, and it's a very sad day for Ghana. I'm calling for an independent, thorough investigation that will nip this in the bud once and for all.
Mr. Agboja, as for the inquiries, we've seen several. I mean, there have been several inquiries and reports that have come to nothing. Why do you think that this one is going to be any different?
Well, let's try something. Let's have maybe an independent inquiry not set up by the minister. In fact, the sad thing is that my checks tell me that the minister, all these things happen on the blind side of the minister, which is another huge misconduct. So maybe for now, let's have maybe an inquiry not set up under the control of the minister or the president alone. Let's see the composition of this inquiry go beyond maybe private sector. Other people can come in who cannot be directed by the government or anybody else, but who can come up with an independent report that everybody can believe that can actually solve the problem.
All right, thank you very much. Kwame Agboja is with the Transport Committee of Parliament. Elsewhere, workers of Neoplan Ghana are asking government to urgently intervene to save the ailing company from imminent collapse. They say inadequate state funding and denial of government contracts have brought the auto-assembling plant on its knees. The workers used Monday's May Day parade in Kumasi to draw attention to their plight by showcasing a fully built bus, another one under construction. Local Union Chairman Kofi Sena says the company currently thrives on the benevolence of corporate organizations and individual transport operators. Ohiming Teria has more.
Government of Ghana owns 55% shares in Neoplan Ghana, which builds and services buses. The company, through Netherlands-based FDL Group, was contracted by government in 2005 to assemble over 400 buses for the Metro Mass Transit. Until the introduction of MMT, Neoplan Ghana built buses for the different Omnibus Services Authority, public universities and private individuals in Ghana and neighboring West Africa. Government has since shifted attention to importation of Chinese and Indian buses, rendering the local company almost redundant. Workers say efforts to get state support, including letters to the Ashanti Regional Administration, have yielded no positive result. Local Union Chairman Kofi Sena says workers were compelled to take buses to the May Day parade ground because all avenues to get attention had been exhausted.
But it seems the government is not looking at Neoplan. It seems Neoplan Ghana is not existing. It seems Neoplan Ghana is not existing. So today we try to block this bus over here for the government to see that Neoplan Ghana is not collapsed. Neoplan Ghana is still existing in the nation, in the country, and in Ashanti region. So we brought the bus over here to support the one district, one factory that is in the vision of the government. So to support us, to give us contract. Normally, if we fall bill for Metro Mass, STC, University of Cape Coast and other transport agencies, we built for them. That's why we brought the bus over here for the government to see that we are still existing, we are not collapsed.
Relying on the private sector for jobs has affected revenue inflow, leaving management to struggle to pay salaries of workers in absence of production. The workers want government to stop importation of Chinese buses and renew its contract with Neoplan Ghana to build buses for Metro Mass Transit and public schools.
Because of that, 3 months now we have not received our salary because we are not producing, we are not doing anything. We come to work, we sit down, at the end of the day we go home. So we are not getting anything. So that's how we are living. Even if the small ones that we are getting from individuals, private companies to bring their buses for rehabilitation, that's what we are surviving on right now.
From Kumasi, for Joy News, I'm Teria reporting.
You're watching Joy News Prime. We're taking a break, but still ahead. The Nation Builders Corps has come in for criticism over the remuneration to be paid its first recruits. It is, however, asking the recruits not to focus on the salaries alone. Vice President Dr. Mamadou Bawumia says the much talked about national IDs should now become available by the end of this month. We have all that and more coming. Stay tuned. Vice President Dr. Mamadou Bawumia says issuance of the much talked about Ghana card will begin by the end of this month. The national IDs, which the Akufo-Addo administration says form the core of its digitization of the economy, is expected to, among others, help in the collection and monitoring of data for tax collection. Government had initially indicated the cards will be issued in April, but addressing congregants at the opening ceremony of the 43rd General Council meeting of the Church of Pentecost, Dr. Bawumia disclosed government is now hoping the cards will become available this month, reiterating it is critical to the achievement of the administration's objectives.
To build a Ghana beyond aid, we need to step up tax collection as the best way to mobilize enough resources to pay for health care, water, roads, build hospitals. This is why we are trying to put in some structures that will help us, keep better records of everybody in Ghana. Thankfully, after a long period, We've been trying to do a national ID card for a very long time, and we pushed the National Identification Authority to do this in good time. They've done a lot of work, and by the grace of God, this month in May, we will start issuing the national ID cards throughout the country. This will mean we will have a record of everybody, and this is where discipline begins. And this is very, very important. We've lacked this since independence.
Meanwhile, Chairman of the Church of Pentecost, Apostle Professor Opoku Onyina, in stating the Church's position on the legalization of same-sex marriage in Ghana, stressed that the Church is ready and prepared to embark on a nationwide demonstration should Western countries and donor partners continue to pressurize government to legalize LGBT rights in the country.
It is my desire that as we digest and pray on it, we will touch the spirit of the letter so that we will minister life to our people. The call to legalize homosexuality, LGBT, by some leaders of the Western world must be seen as neo-colonialism and must be condemned at the highest level. We do not accept this as an aspect of civilization. Africans must see ourselves as people who are mature and know what is good for us and our people. The church in Ghana will continue to reject and oppose this, and we are prepared to demonstrate against this if pressure continues to mount on our leaders.
Nation Builders Corps, the government's initiative to solve the country's unemployment situation, has rejected criticism of the remuneration being offered its recruits. Many have suggested that 700 cedis is woefully inadequate considering the recruits are university graduates. Others, however, say the amount is fair, especially to an unemployed graduate who otherwise would be earning nothing. Maxwell Agbagba visited the University of Ghana campus to interact with some level 400 students who qualified to join the program after their national service.
I think from my perspective, I think the Nation Builders Corps should be, it is a good initiative, all right, but in my opinion, I also think that it's very temporary. Looking at the details of it, the 3-year term that should have to stay in and then go out, it looks temporary. And looking at the vast number of graduates, unemployed graduates out there, I don't think it would meet that, it will satisfy that, should I say, the whole unemployment situation Ghanaians are facing. It is a good initiative, no doubt, but the number is just too small, in my opinion.
The Nation Builders Corps is coming. You get paid 700 Ghana cedis. That's a laudable initiative. Or anybody, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a good initiative. Well, the Nation Builders Corps, I know there are some graduates out there who are permanently employed and not taking up to 700 cedis as monthly salary. Some take less, even though they are permanently employed. And looking at the policy, after every 3 years, you would have to go out of it. Maybe the government would bring in more unemployed graduates. Looking at the different works they are going to do, the health, the agric, and everything, there are companies out there who want people who have some sort of training. And what you can mention from some departments or some particular fields, if after 3 years you would have to go out from this Nation Builders Corps, you would have some technical expertise that other companies out there would be wanting from you. They could just easily take you in and employ you because you have got the skills from the Nation Builders Corps. Yeah. So I feel it would, the rolling out after the 3 years would give others who haven't had the chance to come into it. And those who are going out will not be disadvantaged because they would have acquired some skills on top of the degrees, the HNDs and the diplomas they already have. Yeah.
I think ideally it's not enough for graduates, but I think that if you are in such a position where you need a breath of fresh air after national service, where you have nothing to do, I think 700 cities comes in very handy, I think.
Okay.
I think it's a good initiative, but as well as the impact that the president and the policymakers are looking at it making in the country. I do hope it actually makes the impact of improving healthcare and improving education, etc. Not just offering people jobs willy-nilly. I think that the impact should be looked at. And I think the argument of it being an extension of national service to a large extent is true because the policy is kind of shaped into helping us help the nation. So I think indeed it's an extension of national service to a large extent, and the cash that we stand to gain is also, I think, a breath of fresh air for graduates.
Which category? I mean, we have the Revenue Ghana module, we have Education Ghana module, we have the Civic Ghana module, Enterprise Ghana module, we have the Feed Ghana module, we have the Heal Ghana module, and then we have, there's another one last one. Which one do you feed in? Digitized Ghana.
I feel I'm more inclined to the digitized or the education. I mean, the Feed Ghana is more agriculture. Some of us really don't like to get our hands dirty, etc. And the health, no, not for me at least.
The National Coordinator of the Nation Builders Corps, Dr. Ibrahim Anyas, has however been justifying the 700 cedis remuneration, adding that the recruits cannot also put a price on the valuable skills they will acquire at the end of the program.
We know that the base that people exit national service with is in the 500 zone, 559, which is why I cited that. But we also know that there is data out there that point to what people are earning post-tax and contributions and deductions. And in certain cases, they don't earn 700 Ghana. And because this is a work and learning program, you could not even quantify the skills and the training and the sort of value addition that government is bringing on, and the opportunity to be able to tick the box that says that I have acquired 2 years, 3 years experience, which has now guaranteed me a place in the role or in the employment that I could not apply for earlier on because I lacked that experience. I'll clarify one bit that has not been highlighted and I have followed since the launch. Some kind of, so every single module of the 7 has a module implementing partner. Now, that is likely to be either a government agency or a private partner. Now, in all those cases, every single module has been risk assessed, and the particular risks that are apparent that require some kind of guarantees, whether medicals or some kind of insurance or some kind of tools and equipment to make sure that you don't face certain hazards at the work and you are able to perform on the role that you have been assigned. All those things have been assessed, and where it is required, the partnership between the NAPCO and then the implementing agency would take care of all the sort of issues that people might be concerned about, which is why what you're earning at 700 is not deducted for tax, or there is no deduction for any sort of benefits in terms of your contribution to the SNIT, because it's not taxable income. It's not liable for SNIT contribution. But of course, one other thing that we try to suggest is that 100,000 young people should get in the habit of trying to work out the right economics of earning some income and doing something useful with that income.
The opposition National Democratic Congress, however, says government's Nation Builders Corps is just a duplication of the mandate of the National Youth Employment Authority. According to the national organizer of the party, Kofi Adams, the use of the District Assembly's Common Fund to finance the initiative will stifle development at the assemblies.
Employment generation is something we will support any day, anytime, because that was what we were working at. That is why we were investing in areas that have affected employment generation in this country, to make sure that, one, you stabilize energy supply, to make sure that areas like transportation, infrastructure is well built, to make sure that telecommunication is improved, to make sure that the IT the backbone is well established. Once you do all these things, what is left now is appropriate investment for employment generation, sustainable employment generation. Unfortunately, instead of the MPP government focusing on that, they are taking us back again to yet again short-term experiences of doing things as if you are looking for national service. This is just another example of youth employment, because it terminates. It is not a permanent employment. What we should be doing?
3 years. They say 3 years. They probably would regularize.
You see, they don't. How are you going to regularize the person? So why not take the person at once? That's why the nurses are complaining that we have been trained. We have been trained as professionals already. So what are you talking about putting us somewhere again for another training for 3 years? It doesn't make sense. What you need to do is to complete and make sure you operationalize the health facilities President Mahama built, and employ these nurses in there for them to go and work. You say Nation Builders Corps, and you are picking them that health model. For what? What's the difference between this one and then youth employment? In that case, if you have more money, just give that money, support the Youth Employment Authority to increase the numbers. Why create another political bureaucratic system again? It's waste of resources. This government is not serious about employment generation. They continue to deceive people. So Ghanaians must watch out that they must not allow this trap to catch them. It's a deceptive trap.
But when we say that any commendation, half a loaf is better than none. I mean, 700 Ghana cedis for the graduates. I mean, it's quite okay looking at the economy.
Paka, this is why we have always gone for mediocrity. We must not praise mediocre performance to when another government has built a foundation. You don't go back and go and create another political unit called Nation Builders Corps, and you are forcing this Assembly Common Fund to be used in doing that. The Disassembly Common Fund that more than 75% of the districts in this country rely on for normal development process.
You're still watching Joy News when we're taking a break, but still ahead in the bulletin, journalists from across the globe have converged in Ghana to commemorate World Press Freedom Day on the theme, Keeping Power in Check, Media Justice and the Rule of Law. President Akufo-Addo is expected to address a gathering of journalists, and we will be bringing it to you live right now, though we're taking a break, after which we'll bring you business news.
Hello, good evening to you. Time now for business. About 19 business plans submitted by potential investors in the Greater Accra region have received approvals and waiting to initiate projects under the One District, One Factory program. These include businesses in agro-processing, manufacturing and services, among others. Deputy Trade and Industry Minister Robert Ahomka-Lindsay disclosed this in an interview with Joy Business after launching the district's implementation teams for the various districts in the region. He says government is engaging other financial institutions on the remaining business plans to ensure they provide every district with at least one factory by 2020.
And the One District, One Factory Secretariat received about 700 business proposals from the 10 regions of the country, with majority in agro-processing. According to the Deputy Minister for Trade and Industry, Ahomka-Lindsay, government has approved 50 of these business proposals in the Greater Accra region, out of which 19 have gone through the various scrutinies and received all the necessary financial approvals for takeoff.
So these are 50 businesses that are bankable that have been talking with the banks since last year, around September, October last year. Of those 50, about 19 of them have gone a little much further down the road. Some of them, they don't need financing. They've already come with either international or other sorts of financing, so we've asked the companies to engage with them, our districts, to engage with them. Some of them have had approval from the banks. Some of them are in advanced stage of signing the term sheet, and some of them have already actually commenced in terms of what they're doing. So the objective of this DIST is to help them make sure that they do that. Now, some examples of these companies are everything from processing of livestock. I've given some examples. I hope you take some of the snapshot you saw of the presentation. Various businesses across the board. But these are 19 distinctive businesses. But I want to take a step back as well, because one of the things I started the presentation is saying the following. We will deliver the commitment that our president made of One District, One Factory by 2020.
Districts and metropolitan areas that received the approvals include the Accra Metropolis, Pon Kantamanso, Shai Osudoku, Ingleshi Amanfrom, Ningo Promprom, Ada East, among others. Mohamed Ejaisoa is the chief executive of the Accra Metropolitan Assembly.
As for the investors, there are many. I mean, it will interest you to note, almost every day we get a potential investor knocking at our doors. The challenge also is our readiness also to respond to some of the requests. One of the key issues that we've spoken about is availability of land and the issue about litigation about land matters. So, and I have advised that we should take urgent steps to regularize our interests in the lands that we have.
The District Information Officer of the Shai Osu District has been explaining to Joy Business some roles the districts will play in facilitating the program.
They will start with pork, but then they are saying that later they will go into other productions.
Okay, so how far have they come with starting up this factory?
Okay, so like we are having the district implementation team. We have met with them 3 times, making sure that we are moving with them throughout the process. So every single time we try to know where they've gotten to, the assistance they need. I should say that they are all at the preparatory stage.
The implementation support team is expected to help investors in the various districts to deal with issues of land acquisition and other certification process. Ebenezer Sabute's report for Joy Business.
Over 300 drivers of Uber, a technology-based commercial transport service, suspended operations today in protest against what they described as unfair treatment by the service provider. The drivers were agitating against 25% commission imposed on them, which they say is eating deep into their profits. Sheila Tamaklo was there and reports.
About a week ago, some Uber drivers staged their first protest to register their displeasure on the harsh terms and conditions of service by the private taxi company. Today, over 300 cars parked at a trade fair center in yet another move to register their displeasure.
Ghana is one of the highest commission paid by drivers to Uber, 25%, which is unprecedented in their ways of services. However, some services include payment of money whilst online. We don't have it anymore. Some services include commission when we refer people or not pay anymore. But the treatment Uber is currently giving is a discount that sometimes goes as 100% per ride on a road, which is also very bad. What I mean is that a driver can carry a rider from Community 10, my example, Tema, Community 10, to Ashoman Estates here in Accra, and then come back to Legon. The fare is 68 Ghana cedis, and Uber will write 0.00 rider pays. You see, when we talk of our services, to be honest with you, we drivers who own cars, and we drivers, some of us, who do not own cars but take from car owners. 1, we have bad roads in Ghana. 2, GPS navigating is very bad in Ghana. 3, the riders we are going to pick are not known to us. They use names like A, Didi, Fee, Robber, Raper. Any name they can choose to register themselves on Uber. Though Uber is private, but our security is not assured with who we are going to pick to the destination we are going to take the person to. So what we are saying is that we don't even see the picture of who we are going to pick. A rider can request for Uber for another person to be on trip. What we are saying that this is all, though it's a private entity, but they are not making our security in quotes possible.
I'm saying that the 25% is really affecting us because it makes the drivers, struggle so much. Driver works and have to borrow money from his colleagues or even go back to his account and take money to pay the owner by the end of the week. Now, let me give a breakdown. For instance, if I work in a week and I make 1,004 Ghana cedis in a week, 25% of 1,004 will give you 350 Ghana cedis. 350 cedis. And the owner is expecting to make a 600 Ghana cedi by the end of the week. And that 1,004, I will use 500 Ghana cedi full to make that. When I add it together, it gives you 1,450. Then you are owing. So most of the drivers end up owing, going for debt to borrow money from their friends to pay the owners, which is not helping. You understand? And Uber will come to you later and tell you that you are owing them. And we are saying that calm down so that we can also pay you.
Today, it
is over 300 cars and 500 drivers. But the numbers could grow and this protest could last longer, so long as the Uber executives are not responding. But with this crowd, they are hoping that the executives would hear their complaints and respond positively to these issues. And the issues include the 25% commission, the high discounts on rides, as well as issues of security. Reporting for Joy Business from Trade Fair Center here in Labadi, my name is Sheila Tamaklo.
Very low price.
Now, young entrepreneurs are being encouraged to take up a business in nursing seedlings for plantain and banana. The managing director of Biochemical Products Ghana Limited, which develops suckers using the tissue culture technique, believes the enterprise could prove profitable for young people who are looking to explore gaps in the agribusiness sector. Professor Sami Saki made this observation when participants of the Cosmos Agritech Challenge toured the facility. Joy News' Adlid Arthur reports.
Plantain, banana, yam, and cassava are major food crops in Ghana. Often, farmers have to save parts of the crops to replant, but the challenge is that farmers are unlikely to get appreciable yields or desired traits for the crops if they use this method. With the tissue culture technique, however, scientists say they are able to develop disease-free varieties of major food crops that do not produce seeds. When cells or tissues of such crops are exposed to the appropriate chemical and physical conditions, they grow and multiply, creating genetically identical plants. For more than 10 years, the Biochemical Products Ghana Limited at Ningo Pram in the Greater Accra region has been reproducing suckers for banana and plantain varieties like Apem and Apintu using the tissue culture technique. The unavailability of space to accommodate the thousands of suckers developed, though, has been a problem. The company's managing director, Professor Sami Saki, believes there are great prospects in nursing plantain and banana seedlings and is urging participants of the Cosmos Agritech Challenge to take it up.
You as young people, when I hear about 84,000 young graduates going to look for 500 jobs at immigration, I think, what are we doing? Because really, when I leave this place, do you see my car there? Would you believe I've been putting plants in soil and here? No. Would you think that? No. And then I'll go to the university and go and teach. So it's not I like vernacular, but in Ghana we say ajomoda ajemo to mo pa. You know. If somebody insults you, do you think it would?
The school feeding program, he says, offers another market potential where demand for bananas to enhance the nutrition of school children could be met.
The state has a commitment to provide for all children. Nutrition is for nutrition. So that's why we have a school feeding program. Now, if you decide that young people, agripreneurs and so on, this is a market that is open for them. It means when they go and invest in planting, the market is guaranteed. And maybe the way you control is by deciding what crops you want. So you can say that you want bananas, but you also want plantains, you want yams, because these are the crops which your farmers are growing and for which the market is limited.
Opportunities, according to Professor Saki, abound in the seed industry, where young entrepreneurs can explore and fill in the gaps. Adelaide Arthur, Joy News, Pram.
And that's all we have for you in business tonight. Many thanks for watching. My name is Emmanuel Apwachi. Have a good evening.
Now, journalists from across the globe have converged in Ghana for this year's World Press Freedom Day. A day set aside to promote an independent and pluralistic press. This year's theme is keeping power in check, media, justice, and the rule of law. It is being marked in Ghana because the country has no doubt made great strides in advancing media rights. There are, however, journalists, including those in Ghana, who continue to put their lives on the line to report stories. Some have no social lives, while others have suffered various fates because of their jobs. A case in point is Joy News' Latif Idris, who is currently away from work because of brutalities he suffered at the hands of the police. Some of the journalists have been reflecting on how they settled on journalism as a full-time job.
Let me say hi to Honorable Kennedy Jacob, Chief Binding.
The only thing that I knew I wanted to be was an army officer. That I know for a fact I wanted to. But I found journalism, or journalism found me. And looking back, I have absolutely no regrets at all.
I love to help talk positively for the country, and I got the opportunity. Went to journalism school, became a journalist, and I realized that my job is as important as the presidency of the Republic, and I'm taking it not lightly at all.
I'm a photographer because using image to tell the story is the best, because if you look at the media landscape today, photography is the future.
I grew up in an area where a lot of people had to keep their opinions to themselves, just to expect after 4 years to have someone come to them and tell them what they want to hear so that they can get them to vote for them. Realizing this, I said to myself that someone needs to call authority to order and begin to get the answers to the problems that we're faced with as a people. And that's my basic encouragement getting into journalism.
I hate to see injustice, and I hate to see people suffer because of some other people not doing their work. So if I'm able to tell a story of an oppressed person and get a little reprieve, just a little reprieve for that person, that brings some gladness to my heart.
When I hear names of Kwesi Pratt, Kweku Baako, Mr. Tom Thompson, Kweku Sechiado, and our senior colleagues, I wish I were like them.
Journalism chose me because if you look at the nature of the work of media, it's a calling. It has to be something you give everything to. You have to sacrifice a lot of things to sit in the space where you can hold governments in check on behalf of the people, rigorously asking the right questions. So, yes, I had a first taste many years ago, but since that time, journalism has not let me go.
I think I was about the best storyteller in my village school. I think it is embedded in my core to be one and to tell stories and to ask questions and to demand answers. It's nature to me.
When I wake up in the morning, for example, I'm thinking about what is trending, what will make the society develop, trying to unearth things that when it gets to the attention of duty bearers, it will be addressed for the society to be better.
I just look around me all the time looking for things that could be done right. So when I'm driving around town, see people sleeping on pavements, that's a problem that needs to be fixed. If I'm in the house enjoying my movies or working and the power goes off, it's something that shouldn't be consistent, it must be fixed. So that's what informs the kind of work I do.
I simply love to tell stories. I love to tell people the things that are happening in their country. And more importantly, ask the tough questions to people that matter most. People who we know have the ability to solve their problems once you put those questions to them.
If you can beat people, you can actually write about them and tell the truth in ways that can cut instead of using violence.
I am serving Ghana, my nation and my continent in the best way possible.
For me, it is simply the passion and the passion and the passion. That's it. Ensure that those who don't have the voices are given voices.
take a lot of inspiration from the constitution itself of Ghana. So that makes the media a very important aspect of, you know, our democratic enterprise. It is the reason I still find time to play a significant role in the media in the country.
Well, joining us via TV, or joining us right now for the conversation, is Aram Bashan. She's Group News Editor at EIB. Thank you for making time to join us, Aram. Now, the theme for World Press Freedom Day today is keeping power in check, media, justice, and the rule of law. How effectively would you say we as journalists in Ghana, have been doing this?
Thank you, Israel. Hope you're doing good.
I am.
I think that to a very large extent, and we also have the benefit of empirical data suggesting that the media has been doing tremendously well in holding public office holders' use of power in check. You can make reference to the way we cover elections, that we've been able to facilitate the transition of power from one government to the other in a bloodless manner. On our continent, that is a huge achievement. We can't leave it only for the Electoral Commission to own as being able to achieve that. I think the media has played a very significant role. Even in the last elections, we have seen that. We continue to see a number of exposés championed by media organizations, journalists in the country. A number of them have led to significant changes in policy or direction of government work here and there. So by and large, you could say so. And even if you look at the rating, the global rating of press freedom and how Ghana is faring to some extent, you can say that that is an indicator that one could use. But I still think that there are still I don't know how to say it, but we still have a long way to go if we were to compare ourselves with other democracies. To what extent would you say that in the absence of a freedom or a right to information regime that will be facilitated by that act, to what extent, how much can we do? You know, you still see that a lot of the exposés that we see are being driven by the politicians themselves. I mean, tell me, oftentimes when one party leaves office and another party comes into office, that is when Ghanaians have to brace themselves for more scandals, you know, being exposed. And one would ask, what was the media doing throughout the period, you know? And for me, it's a sad state, but suffice it to say that because of the kind of regime we have, where we don't have access to information freely to be given to us to facilitate the work, because for us, the currency we use is information in our trade, then it looks like the politicians will continue to dominate in holding office, public office, into accountability in terms of how much we can keep our eyes on them, even as wide as we can throw the spotlight. We still might be limited in how far we can go.
Right. Now, Mary,
you know, so I think by way of example, that's what I can say.
Right. You've had extensive experience working with various media houses. You have actually worked with multimedia as well. You talk about the fact that we're not doing so badly, but how about the quality of journalism? We have been criticized a lot for, you know, falling standards. What would you say about that?
Well, I would always say that it's still a work in progress. Even Israel, if you looked at the established democracies, and if they were evaluated as in the performance of the media there, you would be amazed. Somewhere like the US, even a whole US president is literally on a warpath with the entire media talking about fake news and the rest. I haven't seen which other country in which the media has been taken to the cleanest in that, you know, very, very.
But can we say that America
over the years, like in the US?
Yeah, can we say that America is such a bad example, or probably it's an extreme example, and maybe focus on other countries?
Well, you could say that. So let's bring it home. Let's bring it home. But what I'm just suggesting is that we should look at the benchmarks. For me, if we're looking at a credible or quality journalism, is the quality of the personnel that drive the industry, as in the competence of the so-called journalists. If you just use that indicator alone, you would also admit that we've had numerous spurious journalism training institutions joining the fray, and so the number of journalists that are coming out, and of course in our trade you don't need to be licensed compared with, let's say, the profession of, let's say, medicine or law, or even architects, for instance. And so anybody can just get up and then tomorrow they're writing, or they're piecing stuff together, and so they're journalists. And therefore, if you look at competence, whether they have the technical skill sets, the expertise to be trusted with something as precious as the airspace, you know, to be able to package information and share them credibly. That's another thing. And also, even the wave of the social media stuff. I mean, many of our so-called bloggers, as we know them, are technically what I would describe as rookies. Many are doing them as hobbies, but they literally have hijacked that space.
Right.
And so they are the go-to space. And what can you do with that, Israel? So
yeah,
that is also reflecting on how we are all being evaluated as so-called competent or quality journalists, because all that content coming into the mainstream is viewed or through that lens.
All right. We also have joining us via Skype, Dr. Eche Sikankwe is a communications lecturer, and I'm going to put the first question I put to you to him. Dr. Sikankwe, thank you for joining us. So the theme for World Press Freedom Day is keeping power in check, media, justice, and the rule of law. And I'm asking how effectively you think we, as journalists in Ghana, have done this job.
Well, I think that some effort has been made in the past to make this.
All right, Dr. Eche Sikankwe, if you can hear me, I'm asking how effectively you think the journalists in Ghana have done this job of keeping power in check, media, justice, and the rule of law.
Yeah, Israel, I can hear you very well, if you can hear me. I think that some effort has been made, but then of course, and there's always a lot of room for improvement. When journalists are expected to hold the government accountable, it extends beyond the presidency to public officials, trying to find out what is the amount of money, how are they able to use the taxpayers' money. For instance, the president travels around a lot. How much of our money is being used? What are the benefits that we derive from it? There is the need, you know, what you find a lot in our media is a lot of what I call PR journalism, which is that the journalists just take information that is presented to them, either from politicians or by corporate entities, and then they kind of regurgitate or refract, you know, this information into the media. So you take a typical news bulletin and you take a typical newspaper, and you find out that a lot of the stories are made up of such kind of street reportage. There is still a paucity, or there's still a lack of in-depth explanatory or investigative journalism, which is what actually speaks to that function of holding the government accountable in terms of their, expenditure of government funds, in terms of their leadership, and in terms of their role as leaders of government or leaders in public discourse. So for me, I think that is where the focus should be, a shift from that kind of tabloid press release journalism, where the politicians dictate the pace. See, that's where the politicians dictate the pace in terms of what the news is. When we look at our news, more independent and interpretive or investigative journalism, which would kind of bring out the raw in it or shed light on government journalism.
All right. Now, Dr. Sikanku, one other question I'd like to ask you. I put this question to Ayram Bashan earlier, but I'd like to put it to you in a different way. We in Ghana are seen as, when it comes to press freedom, we're ranked #1. Now, what would you, or how would you rate Ghanaian journalists in Africa, for instance, when it comes to quality journalism, with the quality of journalism?
Well, that's an interesting question. You know, I know that generally people like to say that we in Ghana have a free press, there is a liberalization of the media, there's a multiplicity of sources that we could go to, there's a diversity of sources, there are spaces for airing public views and for the content of public discourse within the media space and within the political public space. So, I mean, there's some good things going on, but I mean, really, if we want to hold ourselves to the highest standards, and if we want to make sure that we are meeting up with the expected results of life, I think that's a lot of room. If you take a typical news bullet, or you take a typical news publication, and I mean, a lot of the stuff that you see, there are so many problems with you, the content analysis of a news website or a news bulletin. Just okay that you see.
All right. Doc, it appears we're losing you gradually, but I'd like to put that same question to Ayram Bashan, Group News Editor at EIB. Ayram, how would you rate the quality of journalism we have in Ghana if you're comparing it to other countries on the continent?
We could do better, but Israel, I always try not to join the naysayers and to give us so hard a time. I choose to recognize the good work out there. For instance, when I take a story that Amampo did recently that, you know, created a huge stir, hullabaloo about the standard of living and promiscuity and all of that. Why did that suddenly become such big news when we have so many platforms in this country, so many journalists, hosts of different shows raising similar issues? Perhaps it's the prominence of the platform on which those issues were raised. We have seen great stories, great investigative content. I recognize what multimedia did, for instance, through Seth Kwame Boateng, leading to the support that the Konfanoche Teaching Hospital, for instance, is had. EIB is in the trenches working on results-oriented journalism. Recently, GH1 did one on, getting the educational system to support girls' education, but in a very, in an area that have been overlooked, which is as simple as just demonstration. I think we can do a lot more, but definitely it's not bad. I think, for instance, if politicians stop the talking and actually do the action, support us, if they truly mean that they are open to be scrutinized by the public through the media, then they should just give us a break and pass this RTR as quickly as it can be. Right. And they should remove every bottleneck in the process to getting information. We shouldn't just be seeing these politicians change baton and then we have scandals emerging. I think there's huge appetite of journalists to do much more. All right. What we need is the support. But definitely, I also acknowledge that there is room for improvement.
Can I get a simple answer to this? Do you think that if journalists were paid better, they would do a much better job, or they should do a much better job before they get paid better?
I'm a stickler to good or better remuneration packages, and I think it's a huge incentive. We're living in a very difficult economy on a difficult continent. Definitely it can make a huge difference, and I think when multimedia decided to top up, you know, and to look at packages differently, EIB did, and a number of other media houses did. It's shown even in the output and the commitment and even the staff turnover, because you don't want to invest so much into your staff and then they have to look elsewhere, especially the exit into other areas of profession other than journalism. I'm glad that you have stayed on the screens for as long as ever, and you have chosen not to be swept away by the PR, you know, the more loftier and perhaps whatever, because it's now becoming more competitive, I want to believe. And so it does make a difference.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'd also like to end with Dr. Eche Sekanku. Would you think that if journalists were paid better, they would do a much better job?
Oh yeah, I mean, that is always a good incentive because I think that if you look at the variance, so the number of factors that affect media development or media growth in Ghana and in Africa, one of those which have been identified is the poor remuneration and poor facilities, right? Equipment that are available to the journalists. So, I mean, among a host of other factors. So yeah, definitely, if that is addressed, definitely I'm sure that it will go a long way, because if you begin to look at the salary structures, salary level, I mean, it can get a bit, I mean, discouraged, especially for the low level journalists that we have out there, and that's into other kinds of ethical behavior. So definitely that should help.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eche Sekanku is a communications lecturer. And earlier, we had Eira Bashan, who joined us from EIB. She's a group news editor. We're taking a break here on Joy News Prime. Now, child deaths in parts of Ghana resulting from infections are still high, as about half of all deliveries are done at home, usually by unskilled traditional birth attendants or TBAs. Some TBAs still conduct deliveries in many hard-to-reach areas despite a Ghana Health Service ban. In the following story, my colleague Justice Beidou reports from the northern region town of Salaga, one of the districts with Ghana's highest child mortality cases, on how some TBAs do deliveries with their bare hands and on sterilized rags, putting the lives of hundreds of babies on the line.
Baby Fusaini is one of the victims of Ghana's failing maternal health system. Her mother, then 30 years, went into labor, spent hours traveling by boat, trying to reach the next community with a health center to deliver. She made it to the Yeji hospital, delivered, and died 2 days later from excessive bleeding. Now he is being cared for by the auntie, Rabiatu.
If his mother were alive, this baby wouldn't suffer the way he is now. He cries every night for the mother. I don't sleep. I have to carry her all night so he doesn't cry. I really want to help keep him alive so that he too can be somebody tomorrow.
These stories are common in places like East Gonja, where communities are separated from health centers by the Volta Lake. Up to 70 towns here alone are either on the lake or without a motorable road to a health center. Elsewhere in the small town of Kabache, one of the babies lucky to have survived delivery. Baby Mofida was delivered by 60-year-old Binta Amadu, a traditional birth attendant, 3 weeks ago. Mufida's mother, too, could not reach a clinic in time and had to be delivered at home by a traditional birth attendant. TBAs are usually older women who have mastered the science of delivering babies. Some deliver women safely, usually with their bare hand. Some get complications, touching blood, and hardly used sterilized materials, exposing babies to infections like neonatal sepsis, which account for most child deaths in places like East Gonja.
Around 5 out of every 10 deliveries in this district are done at home and usually by unskilled birth attendants. That makes people like Binta the first port of call for women in labor, as many of the health centers in this district are far from the communities. People like Binta then become the crucial link between women in labor and the health professionals who can deliver them safely.
I don't even have gloves. I use bare hands to touch the blood when doing delivery. That scares me. These days, I could get an infection or infect the baby. There's no light too. So when I'm called at night, I walk in the dark to go and deliver a woman.
The Ghana Health Service has now banned TBAs from doing deliveries and instead encouraging them to bring women in labor to health centers. But that too seemed not to be working, as women prefer them instead of the long, sometimes dangerous road to the hospital.
The TBAs, the challenge we have is that we have trained them as link providers to refer, but we still have some few of them who still go ahead and conduct delivery. The environment and the conditions under which the deliveries are conducted are not good enough to ensure that the children or the babies and the mothers are safe from infection. So most of the time, their deliveries, you get some getting neonatal infections and puerperal sepsis, which can lead to maternal death or infant death.
As more than half of all deliveries in parts of Ghana are still done at home by TBAs, the conditions in which they work would remain a concern for mothers and babies whose lives are constantly on the line. Justice Baidu, Joy News, Salaga.
Right, so we'll have to break into Joy News Interactive to take you over to the Accra International Conference Center, where the President, Akufo-Addo, is addressing journalists as the world marks World Press Freedom Day.
UN resident representative in Ghana, Ghana's ambassador to UNESCO, ambassador of the Republic of Colombia to Ghana, the executive chair, Namibia Media Trust, the chair of the International Jury for the World Freedom Prize, President of the Ghana Journalists Association, the Executive Secretary of the National Media Commission, members and friends of the media, members of the Diplomatic Corps, fellow Ghanaians, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very grateful to the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, UNESCO, for the invitation to participate in this year's World Press Freedom Day, which is being held in our capital city of Accra for the first time, on the theme, Keeping Power in Check, Media, Justice, and the Rule of Law. We are proud to host this year's event. And those of you who come from beyond our shores are welcome amongst the people who pride themselves on their sense of hospitality. I know you've already been here for a day or two, and I hope you're enjoying your stay amongst us. Akwaba, as you know by now, is our word of welcome. Ladies and gentlemen, on 7th January this year, we celebrated the silver jubilee of our nation's Fourth Republic. It has proved to be the most enduring and most successful of the 4 republics of our history. Its constitution has enabled us to establish our state on sound democratic principles, grounded on the separation of powers. Though the Constitution of the Fourth Republic guarantees freedom of expression, including freedom of the press and other media, as a fundamental human right, and makes elaborate provisions to protect the freedom and independence of the media, the existing laws, which were continued in force by the same Constitution, contained colonial laws on our statute books that were manifestly anti-libertarian and repressive of free speech. That is why, as Attorney General, under the government of the great Ghanaian statesman, His Excellency John Agyekum Kufuor, the second President of the Fourth Republic, I led the process in Parliament for the repeal of the criminal libel law. The repeal, when it occurred on 27 July 2001, was a very happy day for me, representing one of the high points of my public career. The repeal has had a very positive impact on the development of the Ghanaian media, freeing it from unnecessary self-censorship and promoting a robust and critical media culture. In the process, it has contributed to the growth of a vibrant media that has won Ghana the reputation of having one of the most media-friendly and liberal climates on the continent. It has also contributed significantly to the deepening of democracy in our country, enhancing public accountability as a strategic goal of public policy. The parlous justification preferred for the retention of the criminal libel law has been that its repeal has made Ghanaian media practitioners reckless and unprofessional in their work, thereby at times damaging the good image and name of public figures and endangering society as a whole. Even as one of the public figures most constantly vilified in sections of the Ghanaian media, and who ironically was a principal actor in the repeal of the law, I continue to insist that its repeal was necessary in the public interest in our emerging democracy. I will say again that I much prefer the noisy, boisterous, sometimes scurrilous media of today to the monotonous, praise-singing, sycophantic one of yesteryear. The Ghanaian media has, in fact, enriched the nation's governance by its curiosity, investigative skills, and persistence. Today, the Ghanaian citizen is able to give boldly and freely his or her feedback on policies and programs of government. Civil society groups are able to interrogate fearlessly government actions and positions, compare them to global best practices, and offer views and critiques aimed at complementing the efforts of government. And the political opposition is able to raise dissent openly, canvass for alternative viewpoints, and by so doing, offer our citizens alternatives to consider on all key issues of our national discourse. No wonder Ghana is, according to Reporters Without Borders, the #1 country in Africa in the Global Press Freedom Index. Long may it remain so. Nonetheless, we recognize the need for training, critical engagement by society with our media, self-regulation, and insistence on media ethics and journalistic standards by media houses, practitioners, and their organizations as part of the process of building a culture of high standards and professionalism in the Ghanaian media. This has largely been accepted as the means of addressing the current shortcomings and ills of our media landscape. As we celebrate World Press Freedom, it is still disheartening to note that though proven to be a catalyst in spurring the advancement of societies in the 21st century, we still have many countries that frown on or even criminalize free speech. The fact that this year's award winner, Mahmoud Abu Zaid, also known as Shoka, is in jail for, as it were, taking photos, is a signal to us that our generation still has much ground to cover. I use this opportunity to call on all governments the world over to put an end to state-sponsored acts that seek to restrict the practice of journalism. When supported, the free press has the potential to quicken the development of societies. Indeed, a democracy has no place for a media that does not keep a government on its toes. Ladies and gentlemen, on a day like this, it is important to consider some of the emerging challenges to press freedom. Like many other good things, freedom of the press has its own associated risks and inherent challenges, especially in this age of social media. I will focus only on two of these challenges, as I know your deliberations in these 2 days will deal with a good number of them. First is the risk of deliberate misinformation campaigns by some elements in the democratic space. And second is the risk of inadvertent misinformation by media practitioners, often in their desire to be first with the news and thus get a punchy, juicy headline. As is unfolding before our very eyes on a daily basis, deliberate misinformation campaigns, which in themselves are not new in politics or war, have now gained added currency with the proliferation of media channels. This is not only the preserve of enemy states in times of war, but has also now become a vociferous tool of political actors who aim to win public relations battles by fabricating or twisting facts and churning them out either through traditional media or new media channels as news. This is a major threat to the integrity of the news world as we have known it. It is not something to be left only to regulators to deal with. It is something that the whole world of media practitioners must resolutely confront and assist the society to identify and eliminate. If not, it has a tendency to undermine the very profession they practice and may in the long term lead to significant weakening of the entire industry with its rippling, potentially catastrophic effects on the broader society. The second risk we have to guard against is that of inadvertent misinformation that is sometimes published by mainstream media, which also has the potential to lead all of us in a race to the bottom. This happens when there is a little twist of facts, often to get the best headline, or a publication of the unverified claim in the haste to be first in breaking the news. The worrying trend is that in many cases, even after the public has been misinformed and the true facts are later made known, mainstream media often chickens out of an honest, open acknowledgement that we erred. The choice is often to sweep it under the carpet and move on to the next big story. To guard against this secularism, which increases as media channels increase, let me encourage media owners in particular to invest continuously in building the capacity of their staff. Media has immeasurable power to build up the confidence and values of our societies and institutions. Therefore, ought to be assisted in being on top of this game at all times. I call on practitioners the world over also to take a second look at the power they wield and the responsibility they owe society with a view to ensuring that they do not sacrifice integrity and the future of our societies for today's headline of breaking news. In Ghana, we're going further in our exercise to empower the citizen, media, and civil society. The much-awaited right to information bill has now been laid before Parliament. We look forward to its swift passage when Parliament resumes and its full application so that all stakeholders have access to information with which we can all play our roles in realizing our vision of building a progressive and prosperous Ghana, a Ghana beyond the game. That is our goal, to build a free, prosperous, independent country that will make its own unique contribution to the growth of world civilization. Conclusion, let me congratulate heartily shortly on the award of the World Press Freedom Prize. It has not been forgotten. I encourage all participants in this two-day event to engage on the many various issues before you with the same candor and passion with which you do your work on a daily basis. As you go about your deliberations, remember that the sanctity of the future of press freedom is very much in your hands. I assure you that the Ghanaian people will continue to defend the right to free expression to the very end because of their determination to build a free, open society with accountable governance. They have manifested in the Fourth Republic their deep attachment to the principles of democratic accountability, respect for individual liberties and human rights, and the rule of law. It is this attachment that has enabled us to continue to produce intrepid media practitioners, such as Elizabeth Henry, Tommy Thompson, Ibn Kwako, Cabral Blay Ane, Kofi Komsi, Kwaku Bako, Kwaku Setiago, Yao Gray, Bessie Pratt, Gina Blair, Gabby Oxley-Dako, and Godfrey Jr., Ken Cranchi, Anas Aribliao Anas, Kwame Sefaka, Bernard Agbo, and Manasseh Azuri Awunu. We have demonstrated fearless commitment to press freedom, no matter the cost. Once again, let me thank UNESCO for honoring Accra with this event, and may God bless us all. I thank you.
And that was President Akufo-Addo speaking there at an event to mark World Press Freedom Day. And that'll be all for the bulletin. For joining News Prime, my name is Israelite. Thank you very much for watching. You have a good night.